Okay. I know this is not probably going to be the longest stream. It's very out of sequence. But anyway, I'm doing it because I can record what I've done and also continue on with the progress. So yesterday I had the email working. Let's get the pieces on screen. Not that one. That one. We'll that one later. I have lots of windows open. Okay. So we have, there we go. I'm going to bring paper cut over here. So yesterday on the stream, we got the invite piece working. We got the email working. So now we got the screen in place for the users. We can add a user. This will be let's do. No, I've already got Jeffrey. Got Jeffrey Winkle. Let's do Martha. So when we hit enter here, what we should see eventually, or within a few seconds, is actually an email appear here, right? I want to see that go to 7 pretty quickly. I've deliberately not restarted anything. I've deliberately not changed anything. There you go. So now after just a few seconds, we get, hello, Martha, you've been invited by Jeffrey Winkle to join the platform. So what does that mean? That means that we have a round trip. So we have a UI here. We've got the ability to list the users. This doesn't update for some reason. I've got to fix that part. That should, when I change the store, that should update. So I'm not sure why. But we have the ability for the form to post to the server that goes through the API that we tested yesterday. When we create that, it creates all the right things. Hopefully I fixed my problem as well. Tables, users, yeah. So I hit an issue with my, basically when I create a user in tenant management, right? Not only do I create the, hi Mojo, how you doing? Not only do I create the user, but I create the tenant user at the same time. If the tenant user record gets there first, it has to make it intact, it has to get the user record. But if the user record's yet to be processed, it fails. So what I've done, they are hidden behind a semaphore because they're both async await, which you can't use a regular lock for. So now I've kind of put in some code there to say, okay, well, when I'm creating a user, that's what I was writing the test for over here. So when I go to update user, now I don't ever create a user here. I acquire the user, and that means that goes behind the semaphore slim, and that will stack up. So if something's actually trying to actively acquire the user at the same time this handle is occurring, they're not going to collide. They're going to wait, and then this is guaranteed to give me a user back. User ID back, which I can then go and pull the user back out the table. If this is null, this is an absolute exception. So if for some reason I've got here after acquiring and then going selecting, then this is a big problem and it should throw. And then I determine if it's changed. So this should be good enough. So we have now completed. So we have the UI working here. And we have papercut as my email here. So we have hello Martha. So that's working pretty well. The store is not reloading. Yeah, that's wrong. I think I don't want to include unverified. So right now it excludes inactive, but they're active by default. And obviously Martha isn't in there. So the store's for some reason not reloading. So we got to fix that. But overall, you see they're active users because they've been created. That's the default state, active. Only verified should show in that list. So verified is they've actually clicked the link and completed the thing. So ultimately, what's going to happen is this screen is going to be okay. Re-invite the user, right? So I'll pull I'll consider pulling the invitation information through here. Maybe the um, last invited or something like that, or something on the user or on the event. So that's where that lies. So let's move that back over here so we don't have to have that giant white screen on there. Go top wedding planning. Ooh, fun. Enjoy. Thank you for the look. But we're getting there. We're starting to get the pieces of the system together, which is what's kind of triggered me wanting to stream this today, because that means I can show this off a little bit and we can do the next part. So push, no changes to push. So if we go to here, add new users, add user from UI. That's fine. So we have, they organized it so users seems to make more sense first. So we'll put users first. We've got the projects in there. I don't like this dot thing. I want to talk to someone. I want to find someone who's really good at the Angular side and kind of and the signal stores, and kind of talk through how would you lay this out differently, right? How would you do different stuff here? Because it would be good to know. I keep checking when I go live on days I don't normally stream. I keep checking to see if anyone is streaming that I would normally watch, so that I can decide whether. Because I don't like to conflict with other people's streams. So we have the form for the add user. We moved this around a bit. We have the add user. We moved the add project. Got the buttons. We got the actual write feature. So this is calling the add user on the service. We've got the this ultimately will get put into configuration. I know that it's possible in the Angular side, but I haven't got the HTTP client and the Apollo stuff joined together yet. So I'll have to do a pass later on the UI. But ultimately, yeah, introduce the sender so I can do the acquire for the user on the view side. I don't particularly mind it. Okay, so let's create a pull request there. Let's move on. 15 files. Just make sure the unit tests are running. The unit tests are growing in size. So how many are we up to? Like 300, 260 maybe? Total unit tests. 270 unit tests. So they are growing. I am trying to keep adding to these things. It's not, I mean, I would imagine my coverage is pretty low at this point. But yeah, it is growing. Okay, so let's merge that. Merge pull request, confirm merge, delete branch, code. Okay, so again, we're just ending up with these. Once I've got the user registration thing in, so that it completes registration, I think that's the point at which I will probably merge back into main, because then the system is actually a solid place. We now have 10 services starting when we have to start up full stack. So that's going to be a continual challenge while I'm developing all the moving parts. Clones. Okay. So let's development, check out, development, update. Okay. And there we go. So that's that done. It's funny. I've been using JetBrains Space for all this, right? For tracking what I can. And as I learn, in November, they're shutting this down. They're actually moving to just a Git platform, kind of an interface platform for Git repositories. Which makes it interesting because all this is going to go away. So I need to be using my stuff by the time this comes around because I need to be off this and dog fooding my own system. That'll be fun. Okay, so now this is my last day of the notifications and alert stream. I'm leaving it to the last minute, as you do. What? Sprint. So this is as an invited employee, as an invited user, not necessarily an employee, right? Permissions and stuff we'll have to deal with afterwards because this user is not going to be set up correctly. We're going to have to talk about how we get permissions to sync properly. I think what I'm going to end up doing is creating a database itself of permissions and synchronizing that with Auth0, so that I can add records in there and have it go to Auth0. That's one of the areas where I think something like Kafka Connect would be really good because I would have to not deal with that, but that is what it is. Um, um, so when an invitation link is clicked, so the challenge here from the URL's perspective is this actually should end in my Angular application outside of the authenticated path, capture information and send it to my server unauthenticated, anonymously, and complete the registration. It's going to be more challenging than I think. When an invitation link is clicked, I should be able to set. I should be able to set my password and complete registration. When complete, I should be returned to the login page where I am able to log in and see the planning items. I haven't really done a pass of roles, of groupings, of all those things yet, but I think I might actually end up having to try and create some sort of schema and then using the Auth0 ad management API to synchronize that with Auth0. Then I only have to maintain it in one place. And then I can assign the roles knowing what I'm assigning. So yeah. What is this? This is a story where it's not really easy to work through the client side and so this is kind of UI and API all at once, I think. Okay. New branch feature T87. accepting the user invitation. So this piece, obviously, I do put a URL in the email, and the email is far from finished. So you can actually switch to the branch, add new users, that gets deleted. I don't like having the branches laying around even on my machine, because it just gets confusing after a while if you leave them sat there. I think we need to do a bit on the client side first to understand if it's possible to do this, because I'm not sure how to. This isn't just an API call, is what I'm saying. App routes. See, these routes are authenticated, I believe. So the landing component, that's not authenticated. Shared permissions service, that's can activate. Yeah. Do I use can activate? Route guards. Yeah, we have route guards. Here we go. Can activate is a function. We do auth interceptor. This is something I'm not. How do we do that then? What? Default layout component. So what stops me from going to, let's log out. Oh, let's make sure it's running. So it's been months since I touched this piece, right? So there you go. So what stops me from going to planning from here? Nothing. I'm logged out. I can't, I shouldn't be, right? I shouldn't see any of this. This should redirect. Um, hmm. So Angular route guards. Angular dev. Why? There you go. System. Oh, you think I'm okay? So can activate tutorials. Can activate. Can activate function, your guard function, can activate. Okay, so it's just can activate your guard function. So is that? Oh yeah. That's this. Yeah, okay, that's that. So they're protected. But that's off of the app. Okay, that makes sense, yeah. So now what happens? Oh, you not got to stop running it. Okay, so if we go to planning now, things go wrong with the settings. Why does that not load? That's interesting. It doesn't load. So can activate, inject permission service, map is authenticated. It's not authenticated. That's fine. But it doesn't. In your routing module, use the appropriate property in your routes configuration. Here, can activate tells you this router to mediate navigation to this particular. Right, that's fine. That's a good point, though. Can I do settings, projects? No. But why doesn't it load this? That's the challenge. There's no error happening there. Can activate. Doesn't redirect. Angular 18. Nope, that's not what I want. Redirecting. What I'm going to do right now is I'm not going to focus on that part because I can clearly make it work. So what we can do is the email we send, and I've been thinking about this since yesterday. I don't think the email that we send should come from the communication. The link that we send should come from communications. I think the tenant management system should own that because it's this system that's going to provide the endpoint, right? So this verify or whatever I call it, right? Verify right this second, is going to be the one that actually pulls that. So I think this invitation code actually stops being an invitation. I'm going to leave it as is for right this second, but I think realistically what I want to do is move that around to be kind of the invitation link, the URL. And then the email is just, it's not responsible for owning that piece because, again, this is communications. This is not anything to do with the knowledge of what that looks like. So right now I've got liquid sky / registration / command.code. So I'm going to make it say registration right now to validate this thing, but then I'm going to quickly turn around and refactor that for this to be passed in. Also, then we'll do the templating stuff to make it look nicer. So I think I can have. Here's the challenge. Do I? So I have modules, way of planning and settings. That's fine. Those are those two. Models, layout. So component default layout is basically the grid and all the layout once I log in, right? So this is the login layout, and then the others are on their own layouts. So their routers use different, but their routes use this layout. The reason I did that is ultimately I want to be able to say, okay, well this actually uses a it won't be default, it'll be planning, ticketing, etc. And when you switch between the different components, you'll switch the layout. That see these are kind of messy. So I have landing as a view. Let's create it for right now. I'm going to follow this pattern. Again, I need to find out what idiomatic Angular looks like with signal stores and stuff. So create and we'll call this registration, which doesn't make sense. Yeah, it's fine. And I completely forgot to remove the test. Tests on the client side is something I really want to get to. But yeah. Okay. So with that, I should be able to go to, and I'm going to stay logged out, right? But I should be able to go here. No. Oh, because I haven't got the route. Path is registration. Component is, actually, there's no component here. Component is registration component. Okay, registration what? So go here, we go registration. And then slash. So that shouldn't match now. Oh, they stopped running again. Am I doing that? I don't know if I'm stopping that running necessarily, or it's just ending itself, which is worse. Okay, so we get there. We go registration. Registration without a code does nothing. That's good. 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go. Okay, so we need that. Okay. No, in here, Control K. Route arguments. Route activated route. We do it in other places. So, hey, Fools Animal, how you doing? How is things with you today? That's okay. Token registration component. The modules, planning components. Maybe I don't do this yet. I might not do this yet, actually. So far, the crash rate thing has not impacted me, so I suppose I'm good. Was it like 8.5 million machines or something that that were affected by that? Okay, let's go to here. Route path. I think arguments from route. Activated route. That's what I want. We did use CrowdStrike in my last place, and they had some issue. Yeah, my previous company was somewhat impacted. Okay, so let's get CTOR, private activated route, subscribe, grams, token. Da, 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 da. Okay, private token string. This token equals that. You're going to set it. Registration component. We need to base this around the landing page style. I want it to look similar. The only difference is in here. Liquid Sky. Complete registration. Complete. Yeah, complete registration. Hello, Bob. Okay, there you go. So, two things I want to happen for. So the first thing I want to happen is when I come into this screen, if the registry, I'm going to validate the code. So I want to make a query to the tenant. We get into a new world here. This brings me into a different balance. So far, I'm not using the APIs for anything but write. So is it correct of me to ask an API for information? Actually, no, I don't need to do it that way because it's still going to be invalid. I don't want to have this check because then there's some form of entry to say, okay, now you can say, okay, take this code and validate it, which means you could take that endpoint and because it's not authenticated, you could actually take that endpoint and test codes in theory. So I don't want a validation endpoint. I want to take the code, feed it in, and it will either return a redirect or it will return a bad request. It would give no indicator as to why. I'm going to have to figure out the password rules though, because they're going to have to be. The password rules are going to have to be strict on the client side, and I don't think I have that yet. So yeah, yesterday we got all of these stuff working to do the invite emails, the link, all that was working. I got the screening yesterday and today. So now you can add a user, which will send them an invite. And then now I complete this and this will be good. So yeah, I don't want to do any form of registration step 1. So what this is basically is this. Right. And in here, let's take that. Let's remove those two pieces. Import reactive forms module. This would be complete registration. That's that. No. What did I break now? What? Sorry. Why are you broken there now? Wow. Oh, no, it kind of did load. What? Why is that doing that? Do that. Let me do registration code. When I click it, it changes the screen out and puts the right form in. What is going on there? If registration form dot is valid and this dot token equal to then let's put some buttons in here and see what happens when it has the layout in there. Just create a new account, that's fine. That's fine. Oh. That's that. That's that. That's that. So we're going to take the email and password and confirm password fields as well. Take out of here and the button. Okay. Can't bind. Okay, that's weird. Let's remove that piece from the top and see what happens. Oh, hold on. Why did that break? I don't get it. That's just that. That's just that. Why is my style all broken? Is that, have I copied and pasted something and it shouldn't have done? Oh, can I read properties null registration? Okay, there's errors happening in the page. Okay, that's why. That's why. I've not set up the right things. I'm being lazy and trying to cut the corner of writing all this, but then I've not bothered to do the actual pieces I need to do. So because the form's not valid. Yeah. And then we can do a, wow, that's actually more complicated than I thought it was. We might have to think about some sort of component there. I like that it's detected it. That's awesome. There we go. That's healthier. So the reason I wanted to put the top panel in there, this piece of the piece at the beginning, is because I think it's important to just, if you land in here for whatever reason, Oh, maybe not then. So this is um, uh, please complete user registration by setting password. We'll talk about what that means later on. ABC 1 2 ABC 1 2 3 ABC 1 2 3. I don't have any validation rules on this yet, so that's going to create a problem. Okay, so thinking that verify is I think we need a new endpoint just to complete registration. We call it register new user. Complete user. Or is it accept user invitation? It's not accept though. It's kind of... So this is going to use the code to identify the user that we sent the code out. And that's why they're using the word code is going to create a trouble for me. But maybe we need the email. Do we need the email? It would be an extra validation step. So the email has to match the code and there has to be an outstanding invitation. And if that's the case, then you are completing the registration. So complete user registration. Post. I'm going to, just in the name of moving this along and as I'm streaming it, I'm going to do all this in one. I might not do this all in one. If this was multiple groups, then this screen alone might be its own piece, and the backend registration just be an endpoint to call. Because you could essentially test this without actually having that. I think I am going to, however, add the email to that front end because I think it does make sense. Oh, yeah. That's something worth having, to be honest. The autocomplete off on dev mode. Because you enter that many emails as you're going through this that is messy. So let's add the email back in. So again, over here, gonna add the email. Email is this dot email. Email. Should now have that. So you enter the email that you were sent, and you've come in on that link. Please complete email must match the email the invite was sent to. I worry about that sort of stuff because I'm concerned that maybe I don't want to leak any details about how I do registration, right? That always concerns me when I'm going through this process. Because I know that there's some ways, there's ways that are less secure and easier to bypass. Oh, talking about streaming. Okay, we're gonna try and get this done, and then we can let's go to other streams. Um, okay, so we're gonna post. So this parameters object is going to contain several things. It's going to contain the code. It's going to contain the email, and it's going to contain password. Do I need to do confirm password on this side of things? I don't think I do. This confirm password is just a blocker on the client to set the password, right? So that's depressing. Um, I think I'm going to remove verify. Verify user. Like the idea is valid, but there's more to this than just that. So I need to remove verify. Let's do this. Is it endpoint? The idea is still the same though. So is it handle or eight? Stream both days of the weekend too. I've made a lot of progress. Um, and I'm enjoying this. So I've got the I'm working on the user registration piece, and I've got to the point where I've sent the email, and then I don't need to click the link. And if I can click the link and do this, then I can actually finish onboarding the user. Um, so I'm just kind of motivated to move forward. And streaming helps me focus a bit more, surprisingly, or unsurprisingly. So, how you doing? How's your weekend been? Out on your travels? Okay. So we don't quite do this. So we'll worry about that in a second. Um, let's worry about the endpoint. So this is um, registration complete. Good thanks. Nice. Look, just got back. No worries. Thank you for the look, sir. Appreciate it. Um, um, I'm tempted to. I'm not trying to create a RESTful API, so I don't really necessarily care about the endpoints. But in the same, I don't feel good using them to describe the application behavior, right? So, see, that's posting to users. That's calling register on tenant. So that's register. That's users. Because a post to user registration just feels odd. Sorry, that coffee was going cold fast. Uh, that's a sender. Sender. Be afraid of the refactoring. So a post to user registration. Let's just go with it for right now. None of this is really going to end my program if things need to be refactored later. These can all be changed, but if I spend too much time focusing on this, I'm never going to get anywhere. So I'm going to make two decisions. First, I'm not going to do the verification of the password on the server side. I'm going to do it on the client side. So you have to make a match before you can post. Risky, maybe. I'll worry about that later. Maybe I'll learn some different patterns there. Email, you need to send that. It needs to match this when it looks it up. So let's get that part posting first. So I think what I need here is not necessarily a store, right? This is kind of a service. Because I'm not adding to the user store here. I'm not modifying any stores. I'm just calling the registration, the user registration. So for right now, let's go and create a new Angular schematic component. Let's create services / user registration service. Skip tests because I can't. I do not have the brain power to do that right this second. So we got service, and I just totally for that one. New Angular schematic. Service is a thing. Services user registration. I think it adds the word service onto the end. So let's see. I think I've ended up with a user registration service. Yeah. See, it adds .service on there and there. So I would have ended up with a user registration service. Let's do private HTTP client. Okay, and again, private const API URL. I just want to be consistent. Settings. Base URL, that's what I call it. And this is going to go to public complete registration API response. That's a different model. Yeah, response is a message. Okay, we'll go with that. What am I passing here? Models, new TypeScript file, and this is a user registration. Export interface, user registration. This is going to have customer email, link, password, code over here. This is going to be a customer, a user registration. What's that? And then in here, what am I going to do here? Actually, not far off this. So let's just take that. That's going to be API user registration. Email, password, don't need all that. Code, registration, code. So we're going to go to API, we're going to post all this information to there. We're going to return an API response because again, the message is going to be unable to verify or if it's a successful request, then we'll test the bad cases first. But if it's a successful request, I just basically want to redirect to the login page, right? So it's not really going to be that difficult. So let's get that working. So complete registration. Let's be more explicit here. Complete user registration. I know it's the user registration service. It's the user registration service. Redundancy. Let's not be extra. So we need to inject our service into our registration, right? And again, I don't need the stores here, so this is why I'm doing it this way. Private service is a user registration service. Again, not trying to be extra. I don't want to be doing, oh, well, this is a user registration service in the user registration component. And yeah, essentially that. This is deprecated. Private in the constructor means that this will create, it will create a value, a variable for this, but it will make it private so that the view doesn't see it. So you don't be accessing that service from down here. So yeah, it's basically the same as creating private activated route. Right. And then setting it in the constructor. It just does it all in line for you. So deprecated symbol use consult docs. Subscribe arguments. Deprecation was introduced in RxJS 6.4. Oh, okay. So that's because what they suggest now is this, where I have, yeah, something like that. And don't I want response? Why don't you like it when I do that? Hold on. So you'll infer it, but I can't do it. That's not that. With error callback, do notice in general it is recommended to only to use the anonymous function if you only specify the next callback. recommended. Okay. So we need to do. I'm probably going to end up with a router in here as well, aren't I? Ugh. Private. I think it's router. That one there. This bothers me. The imports that you end up with on something like this is ridiculous. So this dot router dot navigate. Not sure I want to do that, but yeah. This so message. I mean that's response, right? So this dot again, I think that's still think that's valid. Yeah, response dot. That's it. Okay, so um this is where this is really, really lengthy. Private messaging service. Message service. And then in here, if we do P message, this is one of those things I'm not entirely comfortable with, but we'll find out. This dot messaging message service dot clear. This dot message service dot add response dot message. I'm not entirely sure that that's a good idea. Message is object literal might only specify known properties and message does not exist in type. Okay. So let's stop that running a second. Let's go over here. Let's do return bad request. Bad request. Typed results. Bad request. And then it's a how to do here. New result. So I said that it would be a result of okay. That's interesting though. Oh, because I only return a success message or a bad request. This one's going to be a little bit different. I also don't want to return. Did I use a $1 result in there? Oh, I created my own result. Okay. Yeah. So here I did post that result. I did it this way. But I'm thinking I want to do that. But actually, what does it what does it actually matter? I don't if it fails, I don't want to give up information. I just move on. Um so yeah, this doesn't matter. I don't need to return any message because the a failure is a failure, right? We don't need to return anything from this. So let's start. Technically, we only need tenant management up and running. And then we need to. So to do this properly, we need to go into. My apologies for the bright white screen. We need to go into our key value store and go into Kafka configuration. Oh, no, not Kafka, Ocelot configuration. We then need to allow for. So here we have users. We need to do. We need to allow post to user registration. Then that's user registration. So internally, the gateway is mapping these things, right? So we actually need user registration up and running and the gateway. So let's get that figured out. Then projects, API gateway. We'll move those around later. So I'll do that. So I'm expecting a bad result. I want a bad result here. We need to change this though first. This is gonna get. We're gonna. I want to figure out how to do a. Can I create a base class? No, I don't want to create a base class, but I just want to create a function to use. Message user registration service. So in here now, this is just not. It's just a. What does this return? It returns an observable response. The response body is an object path from JSON. Any. I'm going to try that. It might not be right. But basically, this doesn't matter, right? What matters is that we say unable to register, complete registration. Please try again or contact your administrator. Severity equals error. Again, I don't want to leak details, so that's what I'm mindful of there. I don't want to say, oh, try a different code or your code's expired, etc. I don't want to give any information there, so there's no benefit. Why are you doing that? I don't want those components. Can get rid of that. Get rid of that. This is registration. That's wrong. just checking on whether there's two or one dog behind me. Okay. So we go here now. We go to registration. That will fail. Go with code. My lieutenants, how are you doing? That fails. Registration. / 1234. Oh, no provider for message service. There we go. That's why. Hmm. Yeah, just working on a few things today. Mostly relaxing. Nice. How did you finish up yesterday? Things were looking very good, by the way. I was we're going to change that right second. I just need to, what do I need to tell? I need to get this up and running. The message service. So the message service I use in the starting to get a bit challenging. Gonna add a few more sorting functions today. That'll be super quick and easy. Got the presets on lots and even the sort system done. Nice. Yeah, I was hanging on in your stream and I was trying to progress on this and I just fell asleep. I was just relaxed. I was coding. That was in the background, and I'm like, ugh. Too tired. So eventually, I just fell asleep. It's not. It's nice to find streams like yours though, because it's you're just getting your work done. You sat chatting, and it's nice and relaxing. And the music you play is a good balance as well. So it's not too distracting. I should probably do a poll and see what people would like to do with my stream. Because I never play music. Um, and if I did, I wouldn't play it to myself either because it would distract me. But I don't know how people find that. But I don't mind. I can watch other people stream and I can listen to music like on their stream. But if I try and listen to music while I'm coding, I can't focus anymore, which is an interesting challenge to have. Add requirements, not add requirements. It's add planning item. Yeah, in here. Yeah, I tried to pick some decent tracks, but I do have to clean it up a bit. I'd like to get some music for my own game done so I can add it to the playlist. Yeah, nice. Holy, that is not what I wanted to see there. This is an indicator that my structuring of my code is just horrendous. I've got to find someone who understands Angular and how to write good, clean Angular at some point. Now, why is planning item should be in a module, so none of this should be in here. So I've got add planning item to refactor. Not why I'm looking for this though. One of these components has a message service in it. Planning item detail. Maybe it's planning item detail, but there's a message service. Message service. There we go. So, oh, it's because I'm using the components. I've not got the message service component included, have I? Because if I go to the module here, I bet message service is up here somewhere. Imports, messages module. And then down here, What's the difference? What? Oh, no. Okay. No injector for message service. This is the difference between using, so with Angular 16, I think it was, and 17 definitely, they introduced a standalone behavior. This is a standalone component. There's no extra modules around it, so all its imports come from here. I'm wondering if I need to add a module, this messages module, if it's in the right place. So I have a message service here. Ah, providers, there we go. So let's try that again. Registration, 234. There we go. Interesting. Either way, by test, bob at fail.com. 1234, 1234. Proceed. Did I save that before? No, I didn't. So I need to make sure I save this as well. Sorry for the bright white screens. Basically, when I save my configuration, I have to kind of keep it tracked in here. What's the format? Refactor. Oh. Code. Control or enter. So I need to keep track of this because if I upload this, when I put this into the console configuration, this is, hey, here's what my public URL looks like, so that if I need, because it's through the gateway, right? And here's what the actual, when you go to the actual service that it's going to, here's what its URL looks like. It means I can mask behavior. I could essentially set up, if I'm correct, I think I could set up different routes based upon configuration as well. So, but that's now saved. So redirected. Why did you redirect? You should have returned a bad request. So let's go back there again. Registration. 234. Bob at fail.com. Test. Test. Okay, we got in there. And our request has all the information. And then on the client side, uh, so I'm deliberately wanting it to error, right? But bad request. Hey, important guy, how you doing? How are things? Okay, so let's try that again. So we start the gateway up. Yeah. Start the gateway up. And we're going to start the tenant management. Then let's remove that breakpoint so I don't keep hitting it. And let's go back here. Actually, let's remove that redirect for now. Clearly that worked, but console.log success. Oh, is it? Response. Let's do debugger there, actually. Let's see if we do get a response. Because if the case is that it's it returns everything in the next piece, then let's learn. And yes, I realize I could do the thing like reading the manual, but it's way more easy to just tinker with it. bob@fail.com. Test. Okay, so we do get in here and we don't get a response. On the network side, we return 204 still. Oh no. No, that can't be right. There's no code that returns an OK except the API gateway. Ocelot API gateway. Forward bad requests. Returning 204 instead of 401. Downstream authentication method. I'm not using JWT in here, so this is all unauthenticated. But my concern is if that is Ocelot getting in the way, in which case then I have to return some sort of status or figure out how to get Ocelot to not return 200. Ocelot API gateway. I'd love to know if there's alternatives to this as well, like what other people would do. To this point, I'm like, my apologies. I'm going to move that off screen so it doesn't blind everyone. Configuration. Routing. Upstream headers. Create string placeholders, catch-alls, merging. Like, I don't know if it's standard to do. Is this something I have to worry about? Is it Ocelot doing that? I believe it is because I don't know of any other thing that's in. Oh, how can I can test that directly? Hold on. I can make 100% certain this will return the right thing. Right, I can go here, and I can test the API endpoint from here because that's what I'll do once I've got the URL. I'm doing things a little bit backward, but I'm doing them for stream rather than So complete registration for this. So once I actually start doing the coding side of things, I'll post, and this is that, and it's user registration, and the body is JSON, and its code is 1234. Email is bob@fail.com. My password is test. If you have any questions, thoughts, opinions on what I'm doing, please feel free. 204 no content. Oh, I know why. 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 Here's a challenge. So on a fast endpoint, there are two methods: handle async and execute async. Handle async is always a just receive it and do what you need to do. Even if I'm returning that, it'll still let me return it, but it won't actually do that. It just handles the request. If I do execute async and try that again, I bet you I get a different behavior. It's my use of the handle async over execute. Handle is meant, I don't need to read into it because I'm not sure it's very clear, but I'm betting this will return bad request. There we go. That's healthier. Okay, so now let's start with the gateway. Let's validate the client gets that. Okay. There we go. That looks healthier. I mean, it still didn't do what I wanted to do, but it still that got here this time instead of the other one. So remove that for right this second. Remove that for right this second. Let's go and figure out what I think it's P messages. P messages. Okay, we're not winning any awards for naming conflicts there at all, are we not? Or naming confusion. Okay. Bob@fail.com. Pass. Almost there. It got the severity right. It got the message wrong. Summary detail. Oh, summary and detail. Okay. Does that make sense? Bob@fail.com. Test. Unable to complete registration. Please try again or contact your administrator. There we go. Then let's go and stop that once more. Let's make sure this actually does return. Okay. We'll make the client. Now we'll put this back. Do what? Okay. Opinion question. When something like this happens, where you have to complete a form and you hit complete, what I'm thinking to redirect to the login page, right? So now I want to redirect to the landing page. Would you want to have it redirect, or would you want to have it tell you that it completed successfully still? Like from a usability perspective, kind of thinking I want it to say, yeah, everything's good. API gateway and tenant management. Because models say registered done, send to the login page. Yeah. I wonder if I can do status equals registration complete. So I wonder if I can do something like that. And then in the landing page, if we inject the private activated route. Yeah, because that's what I was typing, right? Angular. Okay, and then we do params. Let's see. If I do register status, public status string, which is nullable. I have a short time that they are complete and redirecting back to their prior page before login registration, but that makes sense for me since the IDP is separate from the actual applications. Yeah, I mean it's not obviously the final version, so I shouldn't really overthink this one. I think this works for right now. I'll just put a message in. Thank you for completing your registration. I'll sign in. And hello, Mr. Hanlon. How are you doing? How is your Sunday going? I need to understand um, people's Sunday schedules for streaming. I started the stream up because I wanted to be productive, and I'd made some real progress on things overnight. So I wanted to kind of share that and also record it. But in the same, I'm kind of watching for people streaming so I can decide whether I'm jumping off or not. Because I don't want to miss streams. So this dot status equals RAM status. Good. My Saturday was busy dealing with yard work and baby bunnies everywhere. Oh dear. That's no good. I'll start streaming an hour or two. Okay. I'll be off before then, but yeah, so yesterday after stream and I'll show it in a few minutes, but we got the whole message bus stuff working. We got the command working to actually send the communication. We got the eventing working properly there, so that was all nice. Then yesterday evening, after stream, I spent some time getting the actual user registration screening, made sure it invited, and now this is the final step to complete the user registration. So this is once I've got this part in, I'll be able to click the link and then create the Auth0 user. I'll have to figure out how to set the roles because if I don't set the roles, that user can't log in. So I think I need to at least set them as a support user. Um, if status font light, thank you for completing registration. You may now proceed and log in. I realized that status you could do switch status, and then this would be case And then that would be, so I could actually go into here in different ways. I'm not sure that's not just over engineering it at its finest, because that's telling an absolute lie. I have no other need for that at this second, but we'll find out. Okay, so we go back here now. We do bob at fail.com, test, test. We hit that. We get nothing. Awesome. That's fantastic. Oh, hold on. So what does that need to be? Status. It URL encoded it. Okay, so that will work. I just need to not have a URL encoded. Thank you for complete registration. You may now proceed to login. Da da da. Da da da. Registration. 1, 2, 3, 4. Test that. Test.com. It doesn't matter what I enter in here as long as it's valid. Ah, interesting. So blah 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 blah. URL encoder. What's the right way to do that? What am I actually looking for there? So that became test.test.com. Pass. Um, route with lines. Navigate. Anyone know how to do this? Navigate by URL. Could do it that way. Navigate by URL. And then that's basically that. 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 Oh. Let's do registration. 1, 2, 3, 4. Test.test.com. Test. There you go. Okay, so that was. So that's what I'm going to do for right this second. Thank you for complete registration. You may now proceed and log in. Okay, so you might, that's probably healthy because I'm like, oh, the challenge there is app step 1 is the piece that has. Oh yeah, probably need to. I don't think there's an else. Yes, there is an else. Okay. Yeah, I can't do that because the sign-in buttons. So the problem here is registration step 1 is the thing that contains the sign-in. No, this. Where are you? Here. But if I do. If I do. Not to do it. Take that out of there. Put that in here. Nothing says we can't do that there, right? And I know you now more. 7 months. Canny Hill, thank you very much. 7 months. I really do appreciate that. So this one doesn't need to say that, right? This just needs to say that. Okay. Thank you for complete registration. It's sign in. Okay. So that's how that's going to work. So if you go here, you get your regular screen. If you go to registration, 1, 2, 3, 4, you do your thing. Complete that. It'll take you here. You can sign in. Okay. How are you? You are working really long on auth meanwhile, right? I am, yes. This has been the last 2 weeks. But I'm getting somewhere. So let me start the full stack up. Quite a good time for a demonstration. What I've been considering doing, by the way, is actually making a YouTube video on the basics of my application. The basics of my application platform, right? Because I think it would be kind of useful to people who are interested in the actual technologies. So what I've been working on for the past 2 weeks is I have been focused on again the auth path, but the auth path is getting new users onboarded. So if I go over here and I go there and we log in, this is where this is going to go wrong now because I've previously signed out and I've not tested the other thing. Oh, there we go. It's working. It should populate. There we go. Okay, so things are still working. So obviously I need to be able to sign users. So this started because I needed to deal with changes. And when you change something, I want people to be notified of things. But being that I didn't have any path for adding new users into the system yet, therefore I couldn't log in with another user, I needed to create that path. So that's why this has been so long. So now I can go into the settings screen, go to users, right? I can go and add a user and I've already put you in there, so you can have that. So let's do Andrew at my.com. So I added Andrew. Now I need that to email link. So if we go to localhost, where are you? Where's my paper cut? Sorry. I've got so many windows open. It's not even funny. Okay, that seems to have worked, I think. Routing, rubbing queue. There's paper cut. So what this now does is it emails, hello, Andrew. You've been invited by Jeffrey to join the platform to complete registration. So now I'm working on this part where you click this. What this is going to do is when I click that link, it's going to allow me to use the Auth0 API to complete that user registration by adding them to Auth0 with the password they've selected, and then they'll be able to log into the system. And then I've got the ability to add new users. I've got the ability to assign them because I can go in here and assign users to this now, right? So these are active users. Which actually I think I need to make it so that you're not added as an active or verified user, you're added as both. But you make this for companies, they probably have already their user dictionary. Yeah, yeah. So I will support mass import, right? You won't have to go in one by one. I will support mass import. But again, the way the user registration was is they need to be emailed their credentials. If I get to the point where this actually becomes, wouldn't it be better to just implement Microsoft user management stuff? What? You still need to be set up as a user in the system. You still need permissions and stuff. I don't want to do Active Directory integration or anything like that. That becomes nightmarish. And even Atlassian doesn't do that. You still set up in Atlassian. The way this is working is you're in control of your password. Your administrator never sets your password or resets your password. You'll be able to say, I forgot my password, etc. Set passkeys, etc. So if I wanted to do an onboarding of an organization, then I would allow them to mass import emails, and it would email all the users and say, please complete registration, you've been invited. And that's the way it works for Jira anyway. So I'm not storing the passwords. I'm using Auth0 for the actual users. But I'm obviously storing my version of the user in this system. So I'm agnostic. I suppose I'm off platform agnostic right this second. So if I wanted to swap out for using something else, the challenge would be the APIs, etc. Then you probably don't target Europe as market. Why not? Interested to know why not there. GDRP doesn't prevent you from having user information. You've just got to have good practices of how to remove user information. And I've got bare minimum, right? That's it. That's the only PII. So GDRP does not prevent you from having any information. It just restricts. But GDRP is the process of removing the information and making sure that a user can request to have their information removed. If you're part of an organization, the organization needs to know about you. I'm not sharing these details with other users. I'm not doing anything with that information, right? I'm creating an Auth0 user, which would be clearly understood anyway, and put them in here. When I remove this user, when I delete this user, it will remove it from Auth0. So as far as I'm aware, all I have to do aren't allowed to be stored overseas. What? Requires you to have valid reasons to process user data, so you just sign an agreement with the controller. Interesting. So it's more secure if it's in the EU. Um, that stuff is the pain. By the way, there's also CCPA, which GDPR in California. I know there's US versions around. Um, my understanding from past experience with it was more, especially when when you were a US based company dealing with with organizations that work in the EU, then yeah, my understanding was based around just having to comply with certain rules before, and the understanding was you need to make sure there is clear the ability to say please remove my information and the ability to understand where that information is stored, all the places that information is stored, and be able to audit it and tell the users what you're actually storing on them. My reason for processing the data in this case is I only need a name. It doesn't even have to be a full name, and the email to which it's going, which would normally be an organization's email, which they would, right? The information I'm storing would be in Auth0. It would be a tie-up of this email address with their, so the application is completely useless without that. And I need to store that. Yeah. So I understand the places it's stored. There's one place or several databases, but they're all able to be trickled down um, in the system. And actually, only the view and the tenant management system need the email. So no, yeah, it's transient information when it's sent through communications. Welcome back, Mojo. So yeah, I mean, I'll look deeper into that. Obviously, as I get towards something that resembles a product, then this becomes a little bit more realistic, right? Um, but just using a Microsoft platform doesn't guarantee that. I'd have to understand that in depth. My understanding was that I have to protect that information and provide um, the ability to tell someone, here's the information I have on you. And again, right now, I don't need a lot of information. But if you don't explicitly target EU users and you are in US, you don't need to comply to GDPR. I do know there's some requirements if you want to do business, but right now I'm so far away from that that yeah. But I appreciate the input, Kenny. It is quite interesting to uh to know that there are some extra challenges. Um, but in reality, I need something, right? Whether that be a token, and my system never does email, which is impossible for right the second. I need to email, so yeah. But anyway, so the system is starting to take shape, right? Realistically, right? So now I can go in and I can add a user. I've got a refresh problem here, but that's fine. Yeah. You need to have safeguards in place and just add consent like a checkbox on registration. Right. Yeah. Yeah. The entire pass of how to make this user friendly has got to become. I think bulk imports aren't viable for bigger companies. Typically, one needs to sign a data processor agreement if it's B2B. But anyway, well, I guess my education in those specific pieces is going to continue later on. But let's get to the point where it's actually a product that people actually want to use. Get people on board testing it, which I have an idea for how I'm going to control that. Um, you know, we talked about how to deploy this and things that I've got to look at yesterday, such as reverse proxies and stuff to make sure I can not share my personal IP, etc. But there's all sorts of things in there before I even get to this point. So this is just getting us to the point where I can now log in. When a bigger company wants your product, you probably have happy to implement a custom solution for them. Happy? No. But it would be interesting to know what that use case would be, right? your platform will be a processor. So if you need to store data in the country of your client, it's up to the client dictating it. They need to save that data in the country. I suppose we might see more regulations in software after the CrowdStrike thing. We may do, yeah. The other thing that would actually be affected and just is this attachments. So what I've got right now is I'm the owner of the attachments piece, right? Which would be bad for that GDPR perspective because this data will not be controlled from me. So what I would there do is provide the ability for the user to specify their own storage. So I would just have whatever credentials they provided to write and read that piece of information from their storage and never anything else. So they would still be in control of their data. That would be another thing to keep in mind. Because right now that's stored in my Azure blob storage. But I did think about that as I was writing that anyway. Okay. So we have progress, right? So you see, I can add a user, that user gets an email. I think it's yeah, there's the email. So Andrew got the email, right? And now I'd be able to click that link and go through the registration process. So now we need to work on the server side of that piece. So I hope it's kind of starting to take shape. This part is not as difficult. The one thing I do need to do is get that committed. Source, new application. Oh, they're not committed as that. Dang it. Okay, so this. When importing user for view, can collide with other imports and create multiple records, modify to use acquire. So that's to guarantee as best I can ID or user. So I had to modify that because the ID acquire is a semaphore slim. So then if multiple things like the tenant users and the users come in at the same time, they're not going to collide. Because what was happening is I was inserting the semaphore at the same time as I was getting the user message. I was creating the user because the user didn't exist. Then the semaphore released and created the actual user. So I got a blank record created that was actually the one associated with the tenant. So that was fixed by modifying it to use acquire. That's going to trip me up multiple times. Data integrity is the focus there, but it is what it is. So okay, so let's get this in place. Create registration page and registration completion page. Completion page and delay call. Password. I should have committed that separately, but it's fine. Okay, so now this verify piece is what was previously this kind of process, right? So this verify user was meant to do these things. So I have tenant user I have an event published from here. I need to modify one thing first. So when I create the user, register new user, this workflow here, when I create user, I actually should make sure, because I think I've got it, I must have it set in the database then wrong. Tenant management, DBO, tables, users, modify table. Yeah, I default to active true. That's not right. I think active should be false and verified. So you could be verified. No, I'm fine. Yeah, I want it to be active false. So when you create a user, it should be active false. Then when you verify it, it becomes true true. And if I disable the user, it becomes true false, right? So I still know they're verified. There's a difference between verified and active. Um, right this second. I'm not I'm not sure that long term that's going to work, but yeah. Okay, so let's go, and that's in the tables. I can modify that. Tenant, tenant management, users, active false. Because I noticed it showed me the users because I'm looking for active users, not active verified users. But if I set active to false by default, it's fine. Okay. Uh, active should default to false or use. If you are interested in anybody, someone who's much better at Angular than I, and he's currently streaming, um, I would highly recommend checking out Sokamil. He does a lot about the Angular pieces that I'm kind of jumping through hoops for right a second. Okay, so complete user registration. We need to. It almost. It is almost this, but it's not this. So I need to create a new registering new user. So the use case here is completing user registration. And this is, yeah, actually is a workflow. Um, which is a use case. Where do I do parameters? Okay, here you go. So the parameters here are going to be so a nice problem to have here, but one that could potentially cause a conflict. Actually, it wouldn't. It wouldn't cause a conflict. You could actually work for two organizations, and they both invite you to join their organization, right? Yeah, we'll put a pin in that one. That's a way complicated, a way more complicated workflow. Because if I invite you, if you've already got a user that's configured in the system, so again, you only have the user once, right? So if you're in three different tenants, you exist in the system and you exist associated with them. Um, if two companies try to add you at the once, it's going to send you an invite to set your password. But if you're already an Auth0 user, that's not going to do very much. So I need to test that workflow later on. I need to kind of consider what that means, because ultimately what it is if that user exists when I go to do the invitation, the user exists and is verified, then the email that I send is actually one of invitation, and I need to make sure that, because the invitation is attached to the tenant, I think I did it that way. Now I'm thinking about it. No, it's not. Oh yeah, it is attached to the tenant. So they would still have an invite for that. Yeah. We have that use case on our platform. We have instances of professors being students at different universities. Yeah. So I will need to figure out that workflow later on. Because that means what that means right now is the invitation that goes out is specified for that user, but the workflow that kicks off is different because I still want to remove the invitation. Yeah. I think I can handle that through workflow. I think the invitation process is not incorrect. I think I just need to say, okay, well, when I do create the invitation, um, well, actually, if the user already exists in that workflow, I need to create a different invitation than that. So, because then the actual email that gets produced would be different. And the command that gets sent would be to represent the way the system flows. Okay, but I can worry about that later. We're not even at that point of worrying about that too much. So this is going to have bullet string code. When you wanted to do it for me a second ago, the this is a use case, and it takes a workflow parameters and it returns the result. Okay, let's move that down there. And what this is going to do is I use a repository, I repository of user, user repository, I repository, no, I sender, so it is a mediator. We'll start with, I'm going to come back around and do unit tests after this. I want to get this. I kind of want to get this workflow completed because it's better to demonstrate this on stream than it is to do the unit tests for it because the unit tests are going to be quite lengthy. The different paths through here, the different failures, etc. So I don't want to hold this part up. I kind of want to do it and move on because once this is done, once this piece is working, I can then move to the notifications piece, which is realistically what I want to demonstrate because that is a big piece of my application proposal, right? Is, hey, I need to know when something changes, right? So yeah. So user uh first default user this is different spec specifications user by invitation code and email. Spec is a specification of user. It's a nice single result specification. Most of my things on this side of things, most of my specifications on the command side of things are single or result, single or default, right? They're not actually anything more than that. So string code, string email. So the query here is where u goes to u dot. Ah, interesting. So actually, this is going to be different. This is going to be user invitation, user, user invitation, user. So this is going to be slightly different than normal. So this workflow up here is actually user invitation repository. I'm actually going to um, um, public class invitation result. Thinking that wants to be that. Sorry, I'm kind of is verified. Public bool is active. Oh, what am I doing? I don't need this. I just need the user invitation. I just need the invitation. That's what set me off there was going wrong with thinking about the invitation, the user, when realistically what I'm trying to do here is, okay, for this user, does this invitation exist? So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to do dot include I goes to I dot user, tenant user, dot include, it does lazily include the other thing, dot include I goes to I dot. Yeah, that doesn't matter. So now what I want to do is where you, I, the invitation dot code equals code and I dot tenant user dot email dot user dot email equals email. So that will return me the invitation, right? And give me access to everything else. So in here now, this is the user invitation repository on first default, and this is new user by invitation code, new invitation by code. Let's keep it succinct where possible. So that's going to be parameters.code, parameters.email, invitation. So if invitation is null, or invitation but expiration expires at await async. If the invitation is null or expiration is less than now, return result bad. It's not going to result in anything but a failure back to the client anyway, so that's fine. So we've got the invitation. So to get here, the invitation hasn't expired. It's valid and it hasn't expired. Is there other things? Invitation. Right. So we've now got that problem. So extract a method, invitation is valid. Right. Well, the invitation is valid. We can wrap that rule up there. Make that a little bit more readable. So we've got a valid invitation. We're going to have a user. So from here, what we need to do is create an actual update because we need to update the user as verified and active. And then we need to create the auth. Actually, we need to do this in a little bit different. Create auth 0 user. And this is why I wrap this up in what I call a workflow, because it's several actions that need to be performed, but I don't want to put them into one big handler, and also keep the handlers, the command handlers specifically for command handling. So we have commands, right? And this is register. So this is not too dissimilar to create, not create user. Where's the auth 0 part? I suppose I've removed that part, haven't I? Well, that's just bad. Register user with provider. Absolutely. Tenant management application uses commands. There you go. This one. This is it. So we have an email, a name, a password, user ID, a tenant ID. Sure, I need that information at this point. I would need. Oh, yeah, that's a good point. So the user identifier comes from me. So that's what Auth0 is going to use as the identifier, and it's gonna create their ID and attach Auth0 to the beginning of it. So I control that GUID. So when they give me a GUID back, I know that's my user. And the tenant identifier I put into their app data, and that's the list of tenant that actually sets the current tenant they're logged in as. I actually do store in their application that actually their user data is the tenant that they're currently logged in as. Their app data stores the list of tenants they can be present in. The idea there is that I can validate when I come into the application, am I allowed to be in this tenant, and which tenant should I actually select from, without storing any useful information in there. So quite a few things. If you're actually interested in what I'm doing and you have any questions about what I'm doing, please feel free to ask. I know that I'm going to hop around quite a bit here because this is going to keep me busy. Yeah. I'm thinking I don't need this information though, because I think I've got the identifiers I need. So I think that this actually needs to change to GUID, user ID, identifier, and GUID, tenant identifier. And then these don't need to be, those don't actually need to be there. I just need the registry. They can go away. That can go away. I can go with command dot user identifier there. And here I can do command dot user identifier and command dot tenant identifier. That cleans that up a bit. There we go. That's why. Registering new organization. That's why they're integers. I have a chicken and egg thing going on there. That's a bit of a mess. I might want to consider, instead of doing it this way, I might want to consider basically basing it on events. Rather than Geek. Thank you very much for 8 months. I appreciate that. Afternoon. Didn't notice you were live. I do apologize for that. I go live on weekends. I can post in your Discord as well. Post all the places. Yeah. Getting bots to do that is probably useful as well. So this is difficult because I have IDs here, but I don't have the GUIDs. I'm not returning the GUIDs back, but I could just as easily return the GUIDs. See, again, it's just if I need to get back to the two stream PC setup, but I don't have enough power and or cooling in this room to achieve that. So that is the problem there. Although I look at that thing, I could have done that, but I avoided windfall. Yeah, it's very windformsy, that, isn't it? Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that back to how it was, right? Because as much as I would love to do it this way and save on a bit of code, I think that's a bigger refactoring that later on I should actually consider what am I doing. But the point is I have the method to do this. So rather than reinventing a wheel here, I don't need to create a different version. Is there a need for two PCs? When I'm running as much stuff as I am here, having more tools running increases the risk because obviously I've got Rider, I've got WebStorm, I've got Data Grip, I've got Docker, I've got OBS running now, I've got, in this case, Banana Cake Pop, all the tools I'm running. I like the idea of having the streaming component off of that machine, off of the dev machine. So if something happens to the dev machine or even the stream machine, they're not blended together. So I kind of like having the two PC setup. It bothers me having everything on one PC. That's why I don't have games on this. I have a separate PC specifically for gaming. That's way more powerful. So what we're going to do here is we're going to do await sender.send. We're going to register with the register user with provider.command. This takes a bit of information, right? New. Yeah, to be fair, it felt like on my last stream things were struggling. Yeah, a separate PC that has a graphics card that can do the encoding properly, and I can run extra tools like StreamerBot and stuff on. I don't have the prompter on right now because I don't want to install that software on here. There's all sorts of little things that need to be installed to do the streaming part. And also, if I want to stream, like I've got my game system set up, my Mister. If I want to stream playing games, I can't do that while I've got this because I don't want to make this. I don't want to put a capture card in this machine and load this machine up with extra pieces. So if I have a dedicated stream PC, I can do those things on that machine, and this can be just development. And even this, I want to get the Docker pieces off and run them as a separate system anyway. Although the benefit of them being Dockerized is I can bring them up and take them down and deal with things that way. So let's do this. So we have email. So that's going to be parameters.email and parameters dot name. So that's going to be invitation dot tenant user dot user dot name, and then we're going to parameters dot password, and then we're going to have user ID, which is going to be invitation. Oh, there's a lot of dots in here. User. It's starting to smell a little bit. User dot ID and invitation dot tenant user dot tenant ID. It's starting to smell. Actually, I can just do user ID there. I don't need to go down the extra path. That one I need to. Okay. My desktop is a stream PC, and one of those SFF PCs, a dev PC, or maybe a laptop that I IDP into. Yeah. Again, I kind of like the separation, so it's yeah. If invitation dot code equals actually doesn't probably the one thing I want to test first, right? Invitation dot code equals actually no, that is there. If in what don't you like that? You don't like the fact the reference of a possible null value. That's how that works. That's a weird syntax just to turn off the thing. Just have to learn how to use that properly. How do I guarantee it doesn't have a non-null value? If invitation is null, return false. Well, that doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense. You can't do that. This makes you deref as a null pointer. Interesting challenge that. I mean, it is. I mean, again, it's a confidence thing, there, right? I know what I'm doing with it. I know how I'm treating it. I just wanted to experiment with that because I saw it earlier on as a possible solution for getting rid of things like that. Here, I know it's not null. So if it gets here, it can't be null. So we're safe. So I'm just telling it, yep, I know better. Can proceed. And now everywhere else after that, it knows not to check because it's now validated that this is true. It's just not very obvious from the way that reads. If I put that back, by the way, watch. If I do string code, we do that. Invitation dot code not equal to code. Right. That's now going to complain there because that's now where. And again, wants to tell it, trust me, I know that it's good. Right. So invitation is valid, it's not null. It's not the code matches the expirations in the future, and the user is not verified. So we do that. right? So we register user with provider. That will return var result, var user registered with provider. Let's read that properly. If not registered, uh, registered, that is success. Return result dot conflict. Otherwise, we have one more command to do, which is update user as the user status. I'm going to be very explicit there. There's no point being inefficient there. Command period user identifier. I want user identifier there. I don't want user ID. Do I want identifier? I have both pieces of information. It's just I gotta be consistent on some of that stuff. Realistically, in the system, I should be passing around the ID, not the identifier, when I'm in the same component. But the problem is every time I need the identifier, we get a mess. So what I might end up doing there is kind of creating some adapters at the beginning that make sure that I've got the right IDs based upon what I'm passing in. So this one needs an I repository of user repository. We don't need to be creating multiple things. Await, first the default, entity by identifier spec, that's fine. If user is null, return not found. Otherwise, do I have this? Right, public void mark as active verified. Is active equals true, verified equals true. Active equals true, verified equals true. Add domain event. New user status updated. So these are these events we're going to add here. Going to be here. Do I have user invitation created, user created? Yeah. And it's just a way of making sure that I can kind of express behavior in the system and react to those things without actually having to write ifs everywhere. User status updated. So again, I've changed the status of the user. That is, let me make sure. Yeah, it's going to look similar to that. It's just going to be that, and that's a user identifier. I publish these with identifier, and this is again one of the inconsistencies. I publish these with identifier because when I create some of these records, I don't have the internal ID. So, but I do have the identifier because I create that at the time I create the entity. It means I can go and resolve that afterwards. So again, I might end up with some sort of resolver that always gives me the ability to say, okay, I've got an identifier, give me an ID back. And then all I need to do is that. So we had the domain event. And then in here, we just need to say user dot mark as active verified. then we do repository dot. Someone's dreaming behind me and kicking the chair. And now in here, we just do return, sender.send, update status, user status to active verified command, and we pass in invitation dot send user dot identifier. Still kind of want there to be a static there for some reason. Okay. So now that should mark that was active and they should complete and everything should be good and everything should work. Again, I'll write some unit tests around this afterwards. I don't want to jam up the stream with being focused on that piece. Okay, so let's finish. So from our complete now, we don't need that. We need to do workflow. I think I just inject the workflow. The use case. So this is workflow, and that's the completing user registration workflow. And then we want to do return workflow that execute async workflow dot parameters new code equals request dot code, email equals request dot email, and password equals request dot password, installation token. Return return result by a success. Gotta await things. The success. Then there. So the only thing that I'm lacking in this, when I do the register user with provider, right, and I'll show you when we get to that point in Auth0. The only thing I'm missing, and I think I'll probably tackle that later today, is once I've added the user, that's great, but they don't have permissions, so they can't log in. So I actually need to go into Auth0 right this second and then say, okay, now, by the way, you're actually a support user. And that will give them the ability to enough permissions to log into the system. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll start this. And again, because this is an unverified request, I can do this without messing around. So what we'll do is we'll go over to this table, get to user invitations. Doesn't matter which one, I suppose. We just need, so right now, let's make Andrew false, say. So we'll do andrew@my.com. Oh no. Probably didn't register the workflow. I probably did not register that component. Use mediator. No. Yeah, there you go. Interesting. Yeah. Builder.services.add transient. Tenant management application. completing user registration .workflow. The naming there might be a little bit hard to swallow, but we'll get there. I'll change these again. I've called them workflows right now, but I really do want to visit that again and see what happens. Okay, so we have an endpoint. So what we'll do is we'll change Andrew, and the code will be code. The password, this is going to be, I'm going to make it the same one as I use for everything else. GPH4A. Object reference not set to an instance of an object. Okay, let's go look at what went wrong there. So our completing user registration workflow. Where did we go wrong? Well, we got in here. That's a good step, right? So we got our parameters. Let's go F10. Do we have an invitation? We do have a user invitation. It is valid. And we have an exception. I bet I know why. So we have specifications, right? Invitation by code and email. I think I dot tenant user dot user. I think that needs including. I don't think it's lazily done, but we'll find out. So again, if you're new to the stream or if you're not, if you have any questions about what I'm doing, if you want to see any technologies, you're more than welcome to ask. You're more than welcome. I'm more than happy to divert. Right now, I'm focused on completing user registration in the system. So when I send an invite for someone to sign up, they can go enter their password and it will sign up or finish the sign up. Yeah. So I needed to include that. There's no lazy loading proxies enabled. That prevents me from loading too much information. So I have to explicitly include that stuff. Okay, so now let's see if this works. Failed to authenticate with Auth0. Okay, so why would that be? That would be probably because I probably don't have workflow configured for getting the Auth0 tenant. So I'm going to move it off screen for just a second. And validate that case by looking at my secrets. Yeah, my how do I do this? Applications, APIs. I'm just validating rather than pull it off and say, oh, put a secret screen up or anything. I'm just gonna validate off screen. What is this then? How do I do this? Tenant management. Machine to machine. That's the secret. I'm not sure why. Um, I need it all zero. Um, infrastructure all zero user registry is get the configuration, authenticate, be passing the client secret, the client ID, the audience, and the client credentials. And we get, so I'm just going to run it up once more. Now, the one thing I think is I tested this, I tried to test this the other day and it failed. And I wonder if I am. Okay, so request. Forbidden. Uh-oh. So I have a secret and I'm going to get a token, and that token is what is failing. I obviously can't show that on the screen because that would give up my auth zero stuff. So my apologies for. That's my client secret. How do I generate a client? Can I regenerate a client secret? Rotate secret. All authorized apps will need to be updated with your client secret. Okay. Rotate that secret. I did not rotate that secret. I'm pretty certain of that. I did not rotate that secret at all. Liquid sky. There, that's better. Self, yeah, from that. This is one of the areas where I really feel that I need to learn a lot more about, like, what it means to do some of these things and kind of get a better handle for. Because I think I kind of muddle through, and I don't need to. I should kind of figure out all this flow. 403 forbidden. Interesting. Failed exchange, grant type. Client credentials not allowed for the client. Oh, what does that mean? So basically, the way this is set up is I have a machine-to-machine application configured, and that has hold on, application knows all zero. I'm not. It's a machine-to-machine. If you're looking for the token endpoint auth method field, allow cross origin. Grant types. Oh, it doesn't support client credentials. Let's try that once more. I'm gonna have to review that because it's removed client credentials as a grant type, but I've just added that back in. I've got a feeling I shouldn't have done that, but we'll figure that out later. Um, so let's see if that changes anything now. Yes, that works. Okay. So that completed. So if we look up the database, and now we look at Andrew, yes. So Andrew's true, and I've been updated. Nice. That's what I need to validate. Okay. Where's best to take a note? I need to make a note of that. I just changed that. Does anybody actually? Does anybody have any good documentation or good things to read on the different auth flows? Because it's set to the grant type there was selected as what is it? Implicit authorization code refresh token. I added client credentials back in, but that's been removed by Auth0 because I didn't change that. Now, this will increase my usage of the Auth0 application. You're allowed up to 1,000 a month on the so every time I make that request, it's going to create a cost. Yeah. Anyway, now I can actually bring Auth0 up. So we go to user management now. Right, we see that Andrew is now there. So Andrew at my.com is now registered in the system. Just to prove that that works, we can go back and go to the database and do Martha. And if we do Martha, and go back here. Now Martha's in here as well. Now the challenge there is what I need to do extra is I need to go and set permissions, right? Or assign a role. So I need to interesting. Yeah, this is what I'm talking about before. I'm going to have to create something that synchronizes my roles in the system against Auth0, which you can do through the management API. You can actually say, okay, well, here's all the roles and the privileges and whatnot, the permissions. And then, because it's my app that ultimately is going to control that, I just need to come up with a way of doing that. And again, I'd be interested in knowing how people handle that piece because it's not something I've done a lot of this. Right. So tenant administrator, you can assign that. That gives a bunch of permissions. Now I should be able to log in. So if I go back to the application, actually we're going to have to start the application again. So I'll move this over here and do full stack. Start the application up. The UI is already running. We'll log out of there. So, I mean, it's starting to take shape, right? The application is now starting to look a bit more like an application, which is what I'm enjoying so far. So it's feeling productive. Watch that tail. That tail's wagging so fast. Huh? That bud? I'm gonna break the place. I'll lose a computer because the dog wags his tail so hard. Okay, so now if we do Andrew at my.com and sign in, and we do sheepish 4A, we should continue without passkeys. Yep, you can definitely do that. Now we should. There we go. So now Andrew's logged in. So we've completed that workflow. Andrew is able to do that. Let's log out again. Are you asking about authorization specifically or something like OIDC? In general, I've never really spent that much time in this because in past experience, I've really mainly dealt with custom rolled auth Auth0 I've used what I understand at any one point, but getting my head around the different flows, the different pieces, because this with Auth0 you configure many different components, so it's more, just like to get better at those pieces, right? So now, actually, if I go here and I do registration and I do code, because that is the code, and we've done Martha. So let's do Simon, right? Simon at my.com, and the password is going to be sheepish 4a, ish 4a, right? Now when we proceed, there we go. So let's sign in and do Simon at my.com. And this will actually demonstrate the problem, right? This is going to let me log in. I can accept, right? But nothing will show. Oh, I must have the basic privileges sat there then. Interesting. It would probably fail. Actually, it would probably fail to update. It's all query. So I don't actually have any permissions around the query side of things. So if you're allowed to log in, you can query the system. This is again, I need to consider myself, okay, how am I going to use permissions in the system? And again, I'm interested if you've got experience of doing some of this stuff, like aligning permissions and roles with the UI, with the application backend, with an auth provider. How is that experience? What would you know, what would you consider? Because this is going to be a challenge. But anyway, I have user onboarding working. That is an awesome success. That is that's a great step forward, because now I can add more users. Again, I can go in here. Actually, let me log out. This would fail when oh, yeah. I gotcha. We're handling app level account roles with our IDP, but then we create sub accounts and handle permissions with our app. I don't know if that makes sense, but essentially IDP will have roles like system, admin, user, system, and admin will be internal employees, all user will be everyone else. Gotcha. Yeah, it's a challenge that I wanna get. So if we log in here, continue that. For some reason, this password is one I can't type. Sorry, bud. I need to bop you on the nose. I don't want to click that because I don't want to have to reset something. So if I go in here now and I can assign to, so the idea, the next piece is when I say, okay, well, Simon's assigned, right? This will assign that to Simon, that updates there. And now we'll be able to actually log in as Simon on a different browser and Simon get a notification that, oh, by the way, you have been assigned something, and we can kind of build up on that piece. So now the design starts of that. But yeah, the application is starting to feel like an application. It's felt like a lot of code with nothing to show for it for a long time. And other things like attachments and requirements and stuff, but more than one screen, more than one piece, several workflows. It just starts to take on a little bit of a life. Um, yeah, cool. Well, the multi-tenant thing, if a user is at two different universities, they actually have two different sub-accounts where those permissions are stored. Ah, good point. Because you could actually be attached different permissions in different tenants. Ugh. We'll tackle that challenge another day. We'll look at what that means. Yeah, cool. Yeah. So tomorrow regular day, a normal time stream. Um, I may tinker with some little bits depending on how far I get again today with the permissions and things like that. Because actually now you've opened that up, that kind of makes permissions a real mess for me to play with. So thank you. That actually begs the question of in terms of tenancy, how would I manage that? I have no idea how to solve that problem. Yeah, no worries. But anyway, I'll be back tomorrow. I'll be either doing this or I'll be tinkering with some of the other peripheral stuff. There's a few things that I could do differently, but I'll see how I am. Um, Mojo, the offer from yesterday still stands. If you do need any time at all for the remainder of today, I am around. So anyway, let's go raid. We're gonna raid Exogamel. He might not be on for very much longer, but he will be. He does stream Angular stuff. He's way more um, competent with Angular than I am, and does a lot of the signal store stuff. So, and he's got some good examples like that. So, I will be back tomorrow. Thank you very much for joining me. Thank you for hanging out. Appreciate it as always, and I'll see you again tomorrow. Hopefully, take care all. I need some buttons, some more buttons.